Okay, that's better. Now we're recording. Now we can start properly. And I'll go back to where I was before. And here we go. So essentially, the only thing that the recording has missed out on is me talking. So now we're getting on to the content. This is the second of 2 presentations on biofeedback using Spooky 2. Okay, the first one, it's recorded, it's out there somewhere. It's definitely in the feed of the Spooky 2 Rifle Life Facebook group, and it'll probably be on some other source as well. Go to it. That will give you some more information. This will give you some more information too. So I'll hopefully be able to get everything together and give you the quality of information that you require. Number 1, firstly, what is Spooky 2? It's a rife therapy system that enables people like you and like me to apply healing frequencies to their own bodies using a wide variety of methods for therapeutic purposes. And seriously, the breadth of ways in which you can make this work for you is pretty astounding. Okay, and as you're going through your journey, you'll work out what is best for you personally, what else can be a useful add-on, and so on and so forth. It is a process of building a relationship with the technology and a relationship with your own body and what works well with yourself. Who was Raymond Rife? At the time, he was an amazing guy, designed like one of the most technologically advanced speedboats. He was a great sportsman, but he was also the kind of person who was like really, really good, like working in a laboratory. And he designed the most amazing microscope that could be used to look at really, 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 really low levels that, even these days, scientists are struggling. And he discovered that frequency could be used to devitalize pathogens. Okay, within my own life, using this technology and experimenting on my own body with my conditions, I have found this to be true. Right, but today we're talking about a few key subjects. Number 1, Scalar Digitiser. How to set up Scalar for biofeedback. So it's not necessarily Scalar for everything else. This is not a Scalar presentation, but we're talking about using Scalar as a biofeedback tool. Okay, are you with me? Then grade scanning. I'm going to mention that briefly, which is a very important, very useful tool. Also an understanding of reverse lookup and how to save and run your biofeedback results, and also all of the fun of the hunt and kill and scan and run, which you can do using Generator X. Okay. Firstly, what is the Scalar Digitiser? It's tiny. It's this tiny little black box, but it fits into the Spooky 2 Scalar unit, which transforms the Scalar device, those 2 boxes with the lids, okay, into a biofeedback scanning machine for the purposes of getting the frequencies which are right for your body for you to apply to your body. Okay, the equipment for Scalar biofeedback is right in front of you now. If you look there, I don't know whether you can see my mouse there. Can you see the mouse pointer? Okay. It's pointing to a tiny little thing plugged into one of the Scalar boxes. That's the Scalar Digitiser. So you need that. You need the 2 Scalar boxes, the Spooky 2 Scalar outfit, the Generator X, and the laptop. One thing you'll notice is that there are 2 wires connecting the Generator X to one of the Scalar boxes. And there's another cable which links that Scalar box with the other one. Okay, that will be explained shortly. So I'm going to run through how to set up Scalar for biofeedback. And I'm also going to tell you the truth from my point of view. I find this complicated. Okay, I find it complicated. But fortunately, Scalar units are like boxes with lids. You can take a quick start guide, and you can, when you close up your Scalar, when you're not using it, you can put it in there so it's always there for you to refer to. That's what I do. So when I want to take it out and use it, all my information is there ready. And if there's any other printouts you've got for other things that's useful for scalar or biofeedback, you can print that out and keep it together with your scalar unit. So the first thing is to plug your Scalar Digitiser into the link cable ports on the transmitter. You've got two boxes, one's called a receiver, one's called a transmitter. You're using the transmitter. Then that thin cable, which goes between your transmitter and your receiver, that's what you plug in next. That goes into the Scalar Digitiser and the other end to your Scalar receiver. So you've connected the receiver and the transmitter. Okay? Now you need to power it up. You've got a transformer, and you plug that into your power. It's a power device. It has to be powered. Now this is where it gets a little bit complicated, because we'll be talking about the two generators in Generator X. One of them acts as a master. It controls. The other one responds to the master. Okay? So when you're wiring it up, this is the hardware part, you connect generator 1, output 1. You're not using a boost. Okay? You know what the boost looks like. Okay, that's what the boost looks like, if you can see me on screen. So you're not using that. It's straight to the output 1 on the Scalar Digitiser. Generator 2, output 1, goes to the other port. Okay? The scalar unit creates a scalar force field. Scalar field. Okay? There's lots of electromagnetic interference flying around. You don't want that. You've got to keep distance between the generator X and the scalar unit, basically as far as you can. So having a large area to do this with is a good thing. Spread it around your living room, spread it around your bedroom, make sure you've got enough space. Then you've got to get your generator X plugged into your computer or your laptop via the USB cable. We all do everything with USB, okay? The lids themselves of the scalar unit have got coils in them. They've got things in them, okay, which creates the field between the two. So when you open them up, it's the back of the lids which have got to be facing each other. You got your tuning dial, and that's got to be turned counterclockwise. There'll be a red light out there, and it'll get brighter and brighter and brighter until it's at its peak. If you go further, it'll get dimmer. You want it back at its peak. So you tune so it's at its peak. And when it's bright, you're there. Okay, you can begin biofeedback. Once you've done the software part. And you've got to make sure you know which one is generator 1, which one is generator 2 in the software. Okay? With my generator X, usually the ports are placed both together in the software. The Spooky 2 software on my Windows computer. And on the screen for the generator X itself, it will tell you which generator and which port correlate, which makes it easier for you. Now it's a question of the setup in the software. Okay? Again, this is in the quick start guide. I'm showing it to you here so that you can run through this. The things you need to click on, and I'll be showing you the software screen later on, so stick with me for the moment, okay? Will be the biofeedback option. Then Spooky 2 Scalar. And then Slave. Now, Why slave? Because you're going to set up something called output shadowing. Output shadowing is mentioned more or less in the middle of the screen. Okay, in the settings tab. And there'll be a little number there. And you have to type in the number of your generator 1, your port number, as recognized by the software. Then go back to your control tab. And then do as you would normally do when running a program. Click Override Generator, which is that tiny little checkbox in the top left-hand corner in the control tab. Then click whichever port connects to G2. This will instruct the software that G2 is the slave generator, which is shadowing generator 1. Back to presets, select master. So now you're selecting the generator, which is going to do the controlling. Then once you've selected master from the presets menu, back to the control tab. Select override generator, generator 1. So generator 1 will control generator 2. Get the scan button clicked and wait patiently. Once it's completed, on the screen will appear your list of frequencies. And we can, and later on in today's presentation, we're going to get into saving the frequency set and how to run it in different ways. Okay. So once this presentation is recorded and it's set up somewhere online, go through it again, watch it again, correlate what I've said with everything in the quick start guide when you're using your scalar unit for biofeedback. You know, biofeedback is important because you want to get the frequencies which are right for your body. Everyone has things wrong with their body in some respects. There's always something growing in there that shouldn't. So getting the right frequencies and then applying them to the body will help to reduce the negative stuff in you, which is related to those frequencies. Okay? But we don't always know whether the frequency sets which are out there in the programs menu are just right for us. We don't know how many of those frequencies will be beneficial and how many will be less effective. And a lot of us don't always have the time to run really, really long frequency sets or fit that into our lives. So now we're coming on to the second subject of today's presentation, grade scanning. Okay? It uses biofeedback, but it does biofeedback based upon existing frequency sets. These can be either things in the programs menu or previous scans that you've done. And you want to revisit them because they were useful, but they're not quite cutting the mustard anymore. They're not quite giving you the benefits that you previously looked out for. And the method is very similar. But instead of selecting general biofeedback scan, you're going to select grade scan. Okay? And you have to yourself load up the frequency sets or past scans you want to use. So let's say I'm dealing with Candida. I've had great success with the frequency set Candida albicans 1 and Candida albicans 4. Okay? But again, those frequency sets aren't quite getting me to where I want to be anymore. So I could, at random, choose other frequency sets and run them. Or I could try and see which of the individual frequencies in all of the Candida albicans frequencies appears to be right for me. So I could load up loads of Candida albicans frequencies, okay, into the generator, and then run a grade scan. Now this can be done with the generator X especially, but it can also be done with the XM generator using pulse scans. So if you only got an XM generator and a pulse unit, don't feel like you're being left out by this, because this is definitely relevant to you. When you do a biofeedback, and I'm going to show you another screen which will explain this in greater detail, okay? Sometimes we are tempted to operate reverse lookup, and this is sometimes a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, okay? It gives you a convenient way of seeing if there is a connection, a correlation between the frequencies in your scan and any known condition in our vast database. Now, let me just quickly talk a bit about reverse lookup. I'll probably go back into this in a second, okay? Many people just don't bother with it. We want to collect the results of our biofeedback scans, and we want to run those scans either via contact or plasma or scalar or remote. That's what we would normally do. Okay, there's a frequency set, it's right for me. I'm not even going to look at what it's covering. But sometimes there's no point. But sometimes there is. Because let's say you've got a troubling condition. You've been diagnosed with something in the past, like in my case. I have been diagnosed with Candida albicans. And when I did a biofeedback reverse lookup, Candida albicans appeared in the list. Now, the whole purpose of reverse lookup is not to be a diagnostic tool. We've all got lots of things wrong with our bodies. Our bodies are always like making things and destroying things. We're going through a process of growth and decay all the time. So there's always going to be something that's going to come up in the scan which is rather unsavory. But if I was to look at the reverse lookup and think, oh my God, it's talking about this, that, and the other, I really should go straight to the doctor and tell them that, Spooky 2 has been telling me that I've got these things wrong with me. That would be wrong. Quite wrong. Reverse lookup is not to be used for diagnosis. Spooky 2 is not a diagnostic tool. Okay, that's the most important thing I could possibly say. Intellectually, we could say that if you have received a diagnosis in the past and there is something which has appeared in the reverse lookup, that might give you a justification to experimentally run some of those frequency sets associated with that condition, like I did with Candida albicans, and it was very beneficial for me, very, very beneficial. But there was also all kinds of other stuff which appeared there, which I don't see the point in worrying about. We don't want to cause you unnecessary worry and stress, okay? So don't see Spooky 2 as a diagnostic tool. To the most part, get your scans and just run them. Okay, there are some times when, let's say, you've got a particular variety of condition and you want to look at one particular main pathogen in it, then maybe you could use reverse lookup to see whether there is something there that you might want to focus your effort of frequency set usage. Okay? But it's not there to be a diagnostic tool. Once you've selected the frequency set you want to use, maybe you want to run a grade scan to try and work out which of those key frequencies are most applicable to you for the purposes of dealing with that condition. Then you'll have a frequency set which you can run. Okay? You can also do an optimized scan based upon the grade scan, which will then refine to a greater level of precision the right numbers that you need. So this is what the box would look like. You've completed your scan, you've been lying between your scalar boxes, or you've had your TENS pads on your problem area, or either side of the abdomen, or right wrist to left ankle in the case of the pulse scan, and you've got these numbers come up. You can now see on your screen where the reverse lookup box is. Okay, and you can look in with greater precision through ticking some of those boxes, include octaves, search customer database, search BFB database, and then just click. Okay. What kind of results would you get with reverse lookup? This is just an example of what it might look like. One thing you can see, if you look at this list, is it's covering nearly anything from parasites to knee injury to cancer. So there's a lot of things which it could cover. I've actually noticed that in my reverse lookups, there will be things coming out there which aren't necessarily connected to a pathogen, but relate to another form of injury my body has experienced. But it would make sense that running those frequency sets would have some kind of effect in assisting the body in trying to find a way of dealing with that problem. Okay? This is what I was mentioning before. If something comes up in reverse lookup that is something you've already been diagnosed with, not by someone on the internet, but by a professional, qualified practitioner, then you've got a justification to run those frequency sets and see if something happens. A lot of your Spooky 2 usage will be experimental, and you've got to be at peace with that. But don't use this technology to diagnose yourself. That makes no sense and there's no meaning. And it's not helpful because you could be chasing your own tail. It's not good. Okay, now we're moving on to some of the fun stuff. When you save your biofeedback scan, place the letters BFB at the beginning of its name. Why? It's easy, it's convenient, and you'll always be able to find it. If BFB is at the beginning of its name, it's just a convenient thing to do. Now you can run biofeedback through contacts, through Scalar, through plasma, even through the coil. All right? So long as you use the right shell preset. The word shell confused me in my early days because I didn't know what it meant. And general Googling seems to infer that the word shell comes from the history and the tradition of writing. And there are people in various different forums all over the place who talk about a shell. And it seems to be something which will adjust your settings page to provide the right waveform, the right amplitude for a particular delivery method. Whether it's plasma and Spooky Central, whether it's Scalar, whether it's contact, remote, or coil. So don't be put off by the word shell. I know it's like trying to learn a foreign language, and you see this word and you think, oh, what does that mean? You know, it's too alien. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. It's just a term we use for something which defines the amplitude, the waveform that's relevant to a particular function, like killing or healing, as well as a method of delivery. So how do you actually do that? At the bottom of the screen here to the right-hand side, okay, it says shell empty presets. You click on it. That takes you to the next bit, which is this list here. Contact, plasma, remote, scalar, the main methods of delivery. Select the one that's right for you're using at the moment. With me, a lot of my work is done by contact, so I'd probably choose contact. Select what it is you want to do. So therefore, you're narrowing it down. It's not just a question of what method of delivery, but what you want it to actually do. Click on it. That will then highlight it in blue, as you can see on the screen. Okay, so killing, open brackets, C, close brackets, hyphen JW. That's currently highlighted. It's highlighted, it's in blue. The moment that happens, your settings page has been adjusted for you. Okay, so you don't have to learn what waveform, what amplitude, and all the other stuff. You don't have to learn that. All you got to do is to click on the shell preset. So I'm sure you can now see how important it is and how much more easy it is to have the shell presets rather than just giving you like a dictionary of different waveforms and things to play with. Okay, it's cool, it's beneficial, it's remarkably easy when you get your head around it. Then the next thing to do is to go to your Programs tab. Now, one thing you'll notice about your Spooky software is that all the various tabs are in a sequence. And they're in that sequence because that's pretty much the order that you do things. Okay, so the Programs tab is further to the right. Then you can type in BFB. And then you can see there a list of some of my BFB scans, biofeedback scans, most of which were gray scans. Okay, because I recorded that image on my work computer. I tend to use another computer upstairs in my bedroom for more of my more specific writing. But that, you know, that was a selection. Select the one you want to run. Let's say it's that one there. Double click it so it's in the loaded programs box. As you can see, loaded programs. It's there. Because when it's there, you can use it. If you want to add more to the chain, you just double click on a few more of them. If you wanted to remove one, if it's in loaded programs, you double click on it in loaded programs, it'll be removed. You can use the arrows to the right of the loaded programs box to move a selected program up and down in the chain for whatever order you want it to be in. Okay, so you should be able to see you can easily add and remove biofeedbacks or programs from a chain. And when you're running it, it will be run in order. Okay, are you with me so far? Okay, now we got another part of the Spooky 2 system which gave me a heart attack when I first found out about it, because I looked at the settings page and I thought, I'm never going to understand this. Good news, most of it you don't have to understand. Okay, for this section here, from wobble, schedule, and contact mode options, is useful for you personally. Why is that? Well, let's have a look here. This section here, harmonic wobble. Hopefully you can see my mouse pointer there. Okay. If what you're doing is healing a part of your body, like I'm working on my prostate, which needs healing, I will leave it at none, and I would have chosen a healing shell. Okay. But if there's something in my body I want to reduce or get rid of, such as candida, mold, fungus, that sort of thing, or anything else that shouldn't be there and is an organic thing, that's living, I will add a harmonic wobble or feathering to my shell, just through clicking on this drop-down box, and it will give me a few options. Maybe for smaller things, you don't need to have much movement, much variation in the frequency. So maybe I could just use 0.02 or 0.05 feathering, which is what will come down on that drop-down box, harmonic wobble. Maybe for bigger things, maybe I'd want to have more variation in the frequency, and I'd want to choose a wobble further down in the list when you can click on it. Now look at the bottom left-hand side of this particular excerpt of the screen. Contact mode options. Ramp up, ramp down, and reduce amplitude. For contact mode method, I will keep reduce amplitude ticked, because very low frequencies, like below 10 kilohertz, will be easier to feel. And it might be, in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases, unpleasant to feel. So we keep that ticked. Whether you want ramp up or ramp down ticked is a question of personal choice. At the start of running a frequency within a frequency set, if you have ramp up selected, it will start from 0 volts and will then work up to the target volts over a number of seconds. In some cases, that can be more comfortable. Ramp down is similar, but it's when that frequency moves from its normal operational amplitude or voltage down to 0 prior to going on to the next frequency within that frequency set. Does that make sense? Okay, it's a question of comfort. And you can see there's a figure there for how fast you want it to go up in terms of volts per second. So if it's going up from 0 to 20 volts at 2 volts per second, that's 10 seconds. Okay, now we're going back to continuing the process. You then go to the control panel, which is the one that will have your little boxes with, the little port boxes for the generators. You click the override box, which is that tiny little checkbox in the left-hand side top corner. Then select the generator you want to use. Your scan, which you added to the loaded programs box, will then appear in the generator box. You can then connect your TENS pads to your skin, and you're all ready to go. And then just click start and enjoy the session. Sit back, enjoy, receive frequency. So that's what we're talking about there. You can see on the right-hand side, it's got the name of the scan that I'm running here. Underneath the word killing CJW, which is the name of the shell, which defines the waveform and amplitude and the rest of that, you've got all the frequencies that came up in that particular grade scan. So what you do when it looks like this, after you've clicked override generator, you've selected that, you just click start. Are you with me? Okay, that's how you run a program. And that can be a program that you gained from Scalar, or a program you gained from Generator X Contact, or from a pulse scan. Okay. Now we're going to get on to a bit more in the way of the fun stuff. Hunt and kill and scan and run. What are they? Okay, they're simple. You place your TENS pads on your skin before you go to bed at night. You've got your laptop or your computer running in the background, operating your Generator X. They can be done overnight. That's how I do it. I did it last night, okay? Can also be done by a Spooky 2 scaler. And if you've got Sample Digitiser and a remote, you can run this all the time. So everything in your sample digitizer, will be being treated by either hunt and kill or scan and run. Okay? But this is not something which is specific to the XM generator because it has no built-in scan function. All right? The scan and run function is a tool which will perform a scan using your generator X. It takes the results of the scan and then runs it. It then refreshes so that it does a fresh scan, and it will then run that scan and will carry on like that until you stop. Hunt and kill is a different form of tool. Because what you do with hunt and kill is, again, you let it run. But it takes a scan of a certain number of frequencies, usually 10. It runs that scan. The theory is that all your little nasties will change shape or try and get away somehow. But then hunt and kill runs the same frequencies and scans them to refine them, try and work out what frequencies the unpleasant things are hiding at. Are you with me? And it then attacks with a second running of the refined scan. It then basically rinses and repeats and carries on seeing how the frequencies have changed, and it then hits those frequencies. The idea is that those 10 problems will then continue to get attacked. One thing which I think it was Chappie who discovered, or was it Prado, I'm not sure now, forgive me, is that you can also run hunt and kill using an existing frequency set. So if you were to load up an existing frequency set, like a Candida albicans set, load that into your generator X, when you want to set up hunt and kill, in a similar manner to if you were to set up a grade scan. And you were to run it, it will then test those frequencies and see if there's any modification to what the Candida albicans or whatever has done. And it will then attack again and run that program again, which then becomes another useful tool and another useful way in which you can attempt to control the nature of your infection. Now, how do you do it? Okay, what is the method of setting this up? You use less equipment, let's say, than you would if you were using Scalar, because you're just using generator X, plus the 10s cable and 10s pads, with no boost, okay? No boost at all, just connected directly as you see in that picture on your screen. Apart from, of course, you have the power cable connected and the USB cable connected to connect it to your computer. Okay? Output one of the generator you want to use. So, on the left-hand screen, select Biofeedback, then Generator X. Then you either select Hunt and Kill here, or Scan and Run here on your screen. Then, in the Control tab, you can adjust a few settings if you want. For the most part, you won't need to. It will take as much time as it does. Okay? This one particular screenshot, I actually took when I wasn't setting up biofeedback. So that's why you've got some grayed out areas. But it does show you the area. This is in your control tab at the bottom of the screen. You can see that there's a word there on the left-hand side of this particular screenshot, which says biofeedback scan. That means that everything beneath that and to the right of it is related to your biofeedback scan. It's not related to anything else. Okay? Everything beneath the phrase biofeedback scan on this screen and to the right of it is related to biofeedback and nothing else. The things you might want to consider adjusting is threshold and initial step size. Initial step size has got two possible numbers, which is highlighted by or is selected by a little dot. Okay, at the moment the dot is near the 0.025. That is a percentage. You can make your scan time much shorter with any biofeedback scan through increasing that number to 0.25. Not 0.025, but 0.25. Okay. Underneath the word detect, we've got some fun here too. There is angle, current, and angle and current. I went into that in the last presentation. Definitely watch it. In many cases, you can just use angle and current. All right. If you're doing a regular biofeedback and not a hunt and kill or a scan and run, underneath the word biofeedback scan, there's something which says log name. Enter something in there so that you can find it when you look for it prior to using the analyze functions and analyze it using angle, current, or angle and current to get more numbers, which you can then add together into a whopping rate chain and then run. But that's for regular biofeedbacks, not for your hunt and kill or your scan and run. I leave that on angle and current, not current, but angle and current for the most part when I'm doing it. Okay? Right. Once you've done that, and the TENS pads are either side of the abdomen, which is the traditional place where you scan using generator X, or the area you want to scan and run and hunt and kill. Okay, so let's say there's a region, let's say there's, I know, the appendix area. And I want to have something on the front and the back of the appendix area. I'll place the TENS pads front and back of the appendix area, if you know what I mean, okay? Then you just click the scan button. Curl up in bed for a good night's sleep, chill out, relax. One good thing about the frequencies of the biofeedback with generator X is they're very high, or they seem to be sufficiently high for you to not be able to feel them. I don't know whether you've tried to run some pre-existing sets overnight via contact, because if you have, sometimes it can be a bit, you know, you can sometimes feel them. But if you're doing biofeedback using generator X, you can't feel it. Okay, so it's easy to get a good night's sleep when you're using generator X, contact, hunt and kill, or scan and run. Okay, selecting running average is good. You can experiment with peak as well. I don't really know what the benefits of each one is. I think it must be very specific to your particular condition. So I tend to leave the running average little dot selected. It's not too important, and I'm definitely getting killing experiences with it. That's what I mentioned earlier on, increasing sample step size and increasing the threshold. One bad thing about that is that you're not getting as much information, you're not getting as much precise information. So it seems, okay? So you got to work out whether you need to get like really, really precise information as to what particular frequencies are the most concerning, or whether you're happy just to do it relatively quickly and get on with your, get on with your life. That's up to you to decide and to work out for yourself, depending upon the severity of your problem. Okay. In general, Spooky 2 has provided us with numerous tools for us to use to help gain results using biotherapy, for which I personally am incredibly grateful. Some of the experiences I've been through using this stuff have been very interesting about, the state of my body, considering what's happened with it. Biofeedback has given us the means to find frequencies for things that might not even be in the database and are specific to you and your state of wellness. Okay, so when you search the database, you'll think, okay, there's like well over 50,000 or whatever it is, different things there. Lots of stuff. Anything that's wrong with me must be there. Well, what if there's something there in you which is like not properly understood by science, all right, or something, and you just need that frequency? Use your biofeedback, get your frequency set, run it. It's just good for you. If you're a person who's in a good state of health right now, and you might be thinking to yourself, I don't need any of this stuff. Don't delude yourself, okay? Right, we've all got things slightly out of balance in one form or another. We're all living the Western lifestyle. We're all doing some things which are slightly contrary to the way in which they should be. So there will be things wrong with you which you need to set right. So it's good for you to maintain your general well-being with this technology, from my point of view, not being a medical practitioner. Okay, I'm not. I'm a guy with a keyboard. But this is my opinion based upon personal experience. And every frequency set you get back, you can run like a normal program through the delivery methods of contact, plasma, remote, and scalar. Okay, you've got that ability. Now, from a personal story point of view, okay, I have a history of candida, yeast, mold, and fungus. Okay, this is a real history. It's a scary history, and I've been able to attack these things. I've been able to have some kind of control. One of the personal experiences I've had was I had this feeling in my right chest. I was very concerned about it, and I went to the doctor and I said, "What's wrong?" I felt there's a stone at the bottom of my right lung. What's going on here? And they booked me in for a chest X-ray, and they could see nothing. So I thought, hang on a second, maybe this is like something that the X-rays can't see. So I put a TENS pad on my right wrist and on my left ankle, and I ran mold and fungus general. And I coughed up the most appalling load of rubbish, and I cleared the problem. Okay, it was a mold and yeast and fungus infection of the lungs. I've had like the day-to-day yeast coming up when I've done this stuff. When I've done a yeast frequency set. Okay, I've run candida frequency sets, candida albicans. I've had rubbery blocks in the guts being dissolved by it. It's interesting to experiment with. I would suggest scan results of 10 to 20 per scan. Okay, I mean, I tried on one night to try and do 80 individual frequencies, and 6 minutes each. That was a major over the top for me, and I had a terrible detox, a terrible Alzheimer reaction from it. So you don't want to do too much to give yourself a lousy hoax, but you do want to do enough to do yourself good. Maybe 1 to 3 minutes. 1 is like a low dose. 3 is like kind of like an average dose. If you go higher than that, it'll be like increasing the dosage of that one particular frequency. Okay, so where are you going to get more information from this? I strongly recommend that you change your television viewing to spooky2videos.com. Okay, sit down with a nice cup of coffee or a pot of tea or whatever it is you like, and go to spooky2videos.com and watch that. At the end of a long working day, there's nothing better than watching people like John White and Echo talking about cool stuff. Okay, nothing better than that. Now, the spooky2-mail.com/blog-index/ is amazing. These are Googleable blogs. Why is that important to you? Because if you go onto Google, and you can test this yourself after this presentation, and you type in the word spooky2, followed by nearly any question, within the top few results will come a spooky2 blog, which will probably answer your question. Okay, it's amazing that spooky2's done this, and the information is out there for you. And get yourself to our Facebook groups, because we want to hear your stories, and we want to share it with you. If you want to buy it, which I'd recommend you do, spooky2.com or spooky2-mail.com. Okay. One thing I will say is that because of the level of need that I personally have got to try and find ways to improve myself, I've looked into all kinds of stuff. And there's lots of health protocols which are out there, of which I approve of quite a lot of them, if not all of them, in some respects. Okay. But some of them are very expensive. The entrance level for spooky2, including delivery to the UK for a basic XM Essentials kit, including the pulse unit, 4 biofeedback scans, works out about $388 US. So if you were to save up the equivalent of $10 US every week, in 10 months, you'll probably have it. Okay? And then you'd have something that will last you for a few years and will cost you a heck of a lot less than many other complementary health methods. But this is something which I believe in personally. I've had amazing and sometimes even frightening experiences with it because of the nature of my health. But my well-being is much greater now as a direct result of using this stuff than it's ever been before. I personally have a long way to go because I've still got lots of other things to be dealing with. But I'm progressing, and I want you to as well. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the fun bit. Namely, I sit here and I answer your questions. So I'm going to stop sharing and bring back my face. Okay. Okay, we got a few questions coming in. And, I'm here to answer nearly everything. As we got 2 things in the Q&A box, I will open that up first. Number 1, first question. Is there a way to view session 1? That was last week. I know it's in the Facebook group, Spooky2 Right for Life. And if you search under my name, you will find it. And it's about 1 hour and 45 minutes of your time. And it's well worth every second because that's an investment in your future as far as I'm concerned. Next question. All I have is a Generator X. I wouldn't say, you should be really, really happy and blessed to have a Generator X, okay? It's a beautiful piece of kit. I've got one as well. Is it possible to get biofeedback with just my Generator X? Yes. You need to have your TENS pad cable and your TENS pads, and that's it. No boost. Okay, because you run your biofeedback with Generator X using TENS pads and no boost and no pulse units and no Scalar Digitiser. You can do it directly and get some very good frequencies for your body for the purposes of reducing some of the problems inside. Scalar Digitiser is how you turn the Scalar device into a biofeedback device to get you some biofeedback frequencies. Okay, it's not necessary when it comes to just using generator X. Okay. Next one, see if I can answer this one. I have a question about the USB ports connecting Spooky 2 equipment to a laptop computer. Does Generator X have USB 2, white or black? Or USB Type 3, blue ports? I haven't paid attention to that. The laptop I've got that I use for this is rather ancient. And I think it will probably work on nearly any form of USB port you plug it into. I'm not, a scientist or an engineer, but it's got USB, it will probably work. Additionally, does Generator X have support for USB 3 Type C port, smaller port, and has rounded corners? It just seems to fit. It fits my laptop, it fits my gaming computer, it just seems to fit. These types of USB ports help determine what kind of laptop computer to purchase and use for Spooky 2 equipment. I've never struggled with any USB connector with any of my devices. I don't think it's necessarily all that serious to worry about. If I am running programs with my generators on the computer, can I attach Generator X to set up a hunt and kill program? Okay. Yes, basically. You can pause your programs, then plug in your Generator X. Then you can go to the utilities menu and then rescan devices. And then it will pick up the Generator X, provided, of course, your Generator X is turned on. Okay, then you can unpause your other generators so that the programs can run on your remotes. Okay, and then you set yourself up to do hunt and kill. During the scan that the hunt and kill does, and the refining of the scan, not the actual running of the scan that the hunt and kill does, okay, but taking the scan, okay, it will automatically pause your other generators. If in the settings page on the right-hand side, you've got the box ticked, which says pause all other generators, basically when we're doing a biofeedback scan. Okay, there's an actual checkbox, which should automatically be checked. I mean, I've got like a couple of XMs running remotes all the time. Okay, and I run hunt and kill or scan and run at night. And when it's doing the scan, everything else gets stopped. When it stops scanning and it starts running the results of the scan, which is what hunt and kill and scan and run does, then the rest of the generators start up all over again. So it's quite safe in that respect. Okay, is there a best type of sample most effective, and how can you tell for the digitizer? Right. The sample digitizer digitizes samples. Okay. So the sample digitizer will only get frequencies for things that's in the sample, from my understanding. So if I've got like an abscess and I get some pus from it, hope you haven't just had your breakfast, okay? But if I've got a sample like that and I shove it in the sample digitizer, my goal is to get a frequency set of things to kill in that sample, so I can then deliver it to myself via remote contact, plasma, whatever, so that the abscess will go down. That's the goal. That's the intention. Now, if I have some saliva, okay, and I put that into Sample Digitiser, it could be pretty hit and miss that the saliva will contain the same pathogens as the abscess on my back. Okay? Pretty hit and miss. So would I be getting the accurate frequency sets for killing of the problem I'm really, really concerned about from my saliva? No, probably not. No. What I would get is all kinds of pathogens in my saliva. Maybe I'll be doing my salivatory ducts some good, or if there is some similar pathogens in the rest of my body from my saliva, then yeah, it will attack that. And things which have a similar harmonic resonance to it. But if I'm concerned about my abscess on my back, then the saliva won't necessarily be the right thing to do. Okay? Okay, can you do the biofeedback scan sitting rather than live? With Scalar, yes. With Generator X, yes. With XM Pulse, okay. With the XM, you've got to be very, very still. As still as you can. It's difficult. But also don't think for a second that the XM Pulse scan is somehow bad. Because the process of doing it is that it puts a whopping great sweep of frequencies throughout your body. From like really, really high to really, really low, or vice versa. And in the process, it will reduce some things in you. So it's a bit like having a long zapping session or something, okay? But based upon a sweep, a massive sweep. The first ever biofeedback I did was with the XM and the pulse unit. And 2 days later, there was things in the toilet bowl that, you know, shocked me rather somewhat. And that was the result of taking the scan, not running it. So if you've got the pulse unit, I think you can do a pulse scan on the Generator X, although I haven't actually tried it. If you've got that, it's actually quite a good practice if you've got time to lie down peacefully and take the whole scan, pulse scan, because it will reduce some things in you that shouldn't be there. It's not really a targeted thing. It's like a broad sweep of like lots of stuff. Just a good practice. Okay. How long do you run a biofeedback scan? Typically speaking, I would leave it for between 1 and 3 minutes per frequency. You got 10 frequencies, that's half an hour. If you're running it on remote, you'll be running it again and again and again over itself over a period of many days. Then you'll take another biofeedback, you'll do the same. You will probably want to add wobbles or feathering, as I mentioned earlier on, if you're running it via remote or contact. Because to the most part, you're going out on the kill. That's your goal. And if there's something inside you that shouldn't be there, you add wobbles and feathering. One or the other. But you've got to look at how it's reacting to your body, whether you're having a Herxheimer reaction and you need to stop temporarily, okay, and your symptoms. And you become the study of one. Then you look at yourself, you think to yourself, what's happening here? Okay, you need to build up a certain level of understanding as to how you're feeling and how you're coping with it. Because Spooky 2 is not like a big invisible red button somewhere in the universe you can press and all your problems go away. It becomes a practice that you do and you learn with, you grow with. Okay. If you're doing it via contact, maybe you want to run it for half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening. Okay, every day for a few days or maybe a week. And then you rescan because during those few days, whatever those frequencies are connecting with will be getting dealt with. But there'll be other things in you that you don't want to be there as well, so you do the same. You know, scan again, cut them down, scan again, cut them down. It's a process over time. In reverse lookup, some of the results have been in numerical value only. Ooh. How does one find the text that corresponds with that numerical value? If there's no text there, you've got less to worry about. But it's still a number you need to run. Okay, you still need to run that number. So there's something, I've only got a number, there's no name for it. So what am I going to do? You're going to run your frequency set, run the results of your frequency set, of your biofeedback scan. Doesn't matter what what's name you give it. Could be a name, as I've mentioned earlier on, it could be a name for something which is like not understood by science even. It could be a name for something that is understood by science, but isn't quite within our database, even though our database is like the biggest in the world. So I understand. Okay, they can still be things which is being discovered. You know, science and my thing is a growing thing. So it's not a fixed discipline, but stays together, stays the same forever, like a great mountaintop, like the ones in my background. You know, it's a growing, developing, evolving science, just like science is developing and evolving. But run your frequency set, run your biofeedback scan. Okay, I would say a killing shell because that's most important. How to do an initial biofeedback calibration to account for the noise or other unwanted frequencies affecting the results, usually placing the pads on each other and running scan. You can run baseline. Baseline is how you help to reduce static, you know, from other electronic devices, other stuff just like out there and affecting our body, our body becoming an antenna. Okay, and all of a sudden, some of these things are being picked up. And baseline scan, you click on baseline scan, and you will essentially do that. There's different interpretations of how to run that. I've never done baseline. I've never found the need. I find that when I'm doing my scans, they are pretty accurate for what's wrong with me, what needs to be addressed. So essentially, I stick with that. There is a justification if you're living in a really, really busy city and there's like computers everywhere and like 20 people who are perpetually on cell phones and Wi-Fi all the time around you, then there's a justification for that. And I've never found the need to do it because and also the things in me are so big and so scary that they'll come up no matter what. Will you discuss in greater detail how you can send the results of the biofeedback scan or hunt and kill directly into the scalar field rather than through the TENS pads? Yeah, you set up scalar. Once you've saved your frequency set, you set up scalar. Simple. And you run the frequency set through scalar, the same way you would run any other frequency set in scalar. It's not something I've done a lot of. But when you set up hunt and kill, you're on scalar. You set it up, you lie down in bed, get someone to click the scan button, then you wake up in the morning. Okay? You've got one of the boxes at the foot of your bed, one of them at the head of your bed, and you run the hunt and kill. One thing I will say from experience is that when I did hunt and kill for 3 months on Scalar, some of my larger pathogens grew back, which they didn't when I was doing hunt and kill on contact. So my interpretation is that Scalar is an extra tool you need to use on top of your more aggressive killing. If you want to kill again, because you've got things inside you which need to be really, really killed, then you need to focus on contact and plasma for your main delivery methods. Okay, Spooky 2 Central is a very good killer, and that's important. My impression of running hunt and kill on Scalar is that it's much more to do with tissue healing. So you're delivering the same frequencies, but it's necessarily going to aggressively kill off some of the problems you've got. Okay. Difficult to say. I think I personally feel much more comfortable with killing something big with something like contact, plasma, and central. So you may get less information for the biofeedback scan using one type of sample, but the running of the scan is done by quantum entanglement. If you already have a biofeedback scan you want to run, is there a better type of sample to put in the digitizer to run it? Are you talking about sample digitizer, or are you talking about remote? Because sample digitizer digitizes samples and the remote delivers information to your DNA. Okay. Different types of DNA you can put in the remote include the bulb of your hair, which lasts a couple of days. You pull off the hair, it's got to have the bulb on it. Just the hair itself won't do any good. It's got to have the bulb which has your living DNA. Your fingernails, your blood, also cheek cells. The ones that last longest will be your fingernails. And let's be honest, right? I've got 4 fingers and a thumb on this hand. If I was going to be really, really organized, I would, on every day, clip off 1 nail. And then next day, I'll clip off the next fingernail, and so on and so forth until I've done a lot. And I'll start all over again if I want to be remote to be really, 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 really powerful. But for the most part, I clip my fingernails once every 2 weeks, wrap them in a paper label, shove them into the remote, and that can deliver me a good dose of frequency. How long does it take to obtain a biofeedback scan using Scalar? It still takes some time. Okay. The different methods of obtaining a biofeedback scan. It depends upon your settings, though. You know, if you change your initial step size and increase the figure there from 0.025 to 0.25, you will dramatically shorten your scan time. XM, yes, that does take the longest because that's measuring your pulse in your fingertips or in your earlobe and your heart's reaction to each frequency. All right, it's like a kind of muscle testing happening on the autonomic nervous system. That takes time, but it's still a very beneficial therapeutic experience if you've got the time to lie down and have the XM pulse experience. Generator X can be very quick. The quickest scan I've done with Generator X was about 3.5 minutes because I changed the settings. But again, you can change, if you're using Scalar, you're using your Generator X. Look at the settings, look at initial step size and threshold, and increase those values by other. So it's not 0.025%, it's 0.25% quick. But also lower resolution, less information, less precise to your issues. So you yourself have to work out, okay, what is most important to you? Is it the precision of the frequency for yourself? Okay, or is it the question of, I'll just run a scan and there'll be some frequencies there which will be useful to me, and that's it, done, dusted, and I can go out and party with my friends. Where, you know, think about what your priorities are when you're thinking about changing settings. Because a lot of people will want to get it really, really accurate so that they can look after themselves. Okay? Is this general process correct? I run a BFP scan and get a frequency hit for Candida, for example. Then go to a medical office and request to be tested for this condition. No. No, 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 no. That no, 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 no. That's called using Spooky 2 as a diagnostic tool, which is not done. Naughty, 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 naughty. All right? If you got a problem, you know, like the process is this. Number one, if you got a problem, you go to a doctor or a pharmacist, or both. Okay? After that, you go to a qualified complementary health practitioner. Okay? Then after that, you see what else you can do yourself. But you start off going through the process properly. Right? Now, if I was to do a biofeedback scan and I was to use reverse lookup, and it says Candida albicans, and that's something I've already been diagnosed with before, I then have a justification to run frequency sets, which is in the program section for Candida albicans, to run it on a killing shell in order to attempt to reduce what I think I've got. If I'm intelligent, I will first grade scan all of the Candida albicans frequencies, which will take a long time. It'll take time. Once I've got the top 20 frequencies, I will then run an optimized scan, see the previous presentation to get a more precise Candida albicans frequencies for myself. I then treat that as being the frequency set program I want to run for myself. But as far as should you go to the doctors because of what you see in your reverse lookup? Naughty, 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 naughty. Very naughty, very bad, bad, bad. Okay? Spooky 2 is not a diagnostic tool. Reverse lookup is interesting. It's useful. It's contemplative. Because it teaches you maybe there's something else that you could be running frequencies for to try and help yourself out. But it's not a question of, oh my God, it says I've got cancer, I'm going to die. Oh no. Everyone has, so it is said, some forms of cancer, because like the body is always like, you know, developing bad things and also fighting bad things. So don't worry about that. Okay, if you've got a health problem, start off with a regular doctor. Also go to a naturopath, but start off with your regular doctor. Then you're not, you know, qualified naturopathic practitioner. And then you go on to see what you can do for yourself. But do it properly. You know, Spooky 2 is not a diagnostic tool. You need to look after yourself properly. You need to take this stuff seriously, yes. But Spooky 2 is not a diagnostic tool. Don't think it is. It's not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a qualified medical practitioner. We have to go to the, you know, the experts first and use their knowledge and their wisdom. And then maybe on top of anything else that they give you, you can then work out what else you can do with Spooky to try and increase your healing process. Okay. Next question. Just to clarify, when using a sample in Digitiser, do you use hunt and kill or healing? No, when you're using a sample in the Digitiser, you're getting a frequency sample. If you also, in your generator X, have your sample digitizer connected to one generator, and let's say a remote connected to the other generator in the generator X, then you could run hunt and kill on the sample and deliver the frequencies to the remote, which has your DNA in it. Now it says here, a synovial cyst on finger that's been gloved but keeps increasing in size. Okay, if you can get a sample from it, you need to put it through sample digitizer. If you can't get a sample from it safely, in a sterile, safe way, then I would do some form of biofeedback on your hand. Possibly holding a hand cylinder in that hand, or maybe having a TENS pad higher up the arm, by way of a guess. And then you can save the frequency set, deliver it by contact or by plasma. If you've got the Fanatron bulb, maybe you could put your hand over the Fanatron itself, the round plasma ball, and get it delivered that way. Also, if you can do I don't know whether it'd be convenient for you to do that overnight, but if that's a cyst on your finger and it's an infection, broad spectrum antibiotic preset being set on the Fanatron overnight 8 hours. If you could keep your hand there for the whole 8 hours, then that might help to reduce it. I don't know if that's even feasible for you. If I was you, I'd definitely be running the remote broad spectrum antibiotic on that and add a feathering. Not necessarily directly on it, but just a remote sending you the frequencies all the time, every day, for like a long period of time. You also need some kind of more direct power to that. Even possibly contact antibiotics frequencies, just connecting to your right wrist, left ankle, will get most of the body treated, so to speak. But it would also, you'd get some of the frequencies going to your fingers as well, and that could help to reduce it. Yeah, it's a very tricky problem. I think it's a question of whether you want to use hunt and kill, or whether you want to just get a sample, get a frequency set and deliver that to the problem, or whether you want to try broad spectrum antibiotic. It might even be worthwhile just Googling like crazy for what kind of pathogens could be causing that particular problem, and searching for the frequencies in the database, and then delivering that through any means possible. Because it's a complex issue. Okay. Does the sample digitizer also deliver the information to run the scan? Now you need to set up your generator X so that one generator has the sample digitizer, the other one has remotes for your contact. If you're using sample digitizer. Okay. If it appears irregular heartbeat is causing the biofeedback scan to run for 2 hours, is there a shortcut to creating a balance with the heart that will reduce the BFE scan time? Change your settings. Okay. Threshold set to 0.1. Reduce your sample size. Okay. Right, okay. Now we'll see what's in the chat. Okay, if you're still out there and you've got more questions, send them through. Okay. For CLL, where is the best place for TENS pads? Hunt and kill since it's a blood disorder. Okay, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm a guy who's got his challenges and has got a keyboard. If you've got a blood disorder and you're using TENS pads and it is a whole body problem, then right wrist, left ankle. Most of my work, even if I'm treating my prostate, I want to reduce swelling on my prostate, I go right wrist, left ankle because it just gets frequencies throughout the whole body. And also the resonance, this goes to the problem. I don't know what CLL is. I would even be tempted to use the XM generator as a whole, the clock zapper periodically, just to add more goodness to your body somehow. Do you know what the pathogens are? Can you search for them in the database? All right. If you need to scan and it's a blood disorder, depends upon how loud the signal is for that particular thing, really, isn't it? Because I don't know if there are any particular specific frequencies in the database for that problem. But if you've got other things going on in your body too, then that could drown out the signal. If it's a blood disorder, try searching in the program for blood disorders. Run a grade scan, maybe, on blood disorders. Then run an optimized scan on that scan results and see what comes up. Because this isn't a prescription. This isn't a medical prescription. This is a way of just trying to improve your wellness, try and deal with the problem. All complementary health is about like three main things. Okay, increasing the positive nutrition, reducing pathogenic load, and reducing toxicity in various different ways using the various complex systems within the body. So it's a question of focusing as best as you can on these things causing blood disorder. So it's chronic leukemia lymphoma. Right. Is leukemia a blood cancer? If that's the case, then maybe you actually need to look into cancer research to try and focus on what the real issue is there. I mean, that sounds pretty serious. It's got lymphoma in the title, so it's connected to your lymphatic system. So detoxification will be very important to you. And fitting detox protocols in with your regular treatment will also be pretty important for you too. But I would say possibly looking in the cancer protocol and seeing whether there's something there which can help. Okay, Sarah says, question 1. What treatment would you recommend for gut infections? I'm not recommending any treatment for anything. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. Okay, I'm a monkey with a keyboard. Okay, but what would I creatively, intuitively work out for a gut infection? Taking into account what I know and what I've experienced. I know which infections I have based on diagnostics from a qualified practitioner. I have SCADA and GenX. I'm wondering if I should treat with SCADA or contact via TENS, whole body, and TENS pads on the abdomen. Okay. If you haven't got plasma, then I would go contact. I would put your TENS pads on the abdomen. I would get the larger, longer TENS pads. Okay, and I would put them like vertically along the body between your hip and the lower ribs, either side of the abdomen, to try and get as much of the goodness into as much of the area as you can. If you know what pathogens you're dealing with, definitely run those sets on a killing shell, on contact. Also run your own scans and just see how you do. Okay? If there's frequencies for your pathogens, grade scan, optimize scan the grade scan, then run them alongside general scans and high frequency scans. And then just sit down in front of the TV watching Netflix, whilst you're running it, or overnight when you're in bed. That would possibly be a good way of addressing it. As I say, like, a lot of this is experimental. Okay, question 2. How long is recommended for scalar treatment for infections? How long is a piece of string? I did my scalar overnight, and I slept between the boxes. So we're talking about between 7 and 9 hours is what I've done. I can't tell you. It depends upon how you react to it, and whether you are having a terrible Herxheimer reaction, and you need to stop because it's just too much. And you stop for a while, you get yourself well, you recover, you then go back to it. You carry on attacking the problem bit by bit by bit by bit, like just chiseling away at something over time and getting progression that way. Okay, how to apply the frequencies, concept, either side of your waist. Okay. Right, now another one here says, when I use the larger TENS pads, like the wristband or the glove, does the frequency get delivered over the entire area of the pad, or the pad covers only one small area where the connection is? Okay, you got your gloves and you got your bands, okay, but you've also got sticky TENS pads, which are large rectangular things. I mean, these are TENS pads, okay, and there are some of these which are longer. They're sort of like, well, they're bigger. And they're self-adhesive, just like these things are. And they can cover quite a large area on the abdomen or wherever you're going in. But it's wherever it's touching. I mean, with the gloves, I mean, I had a problem with the gloves, with the bands, because it's got that little popper, that little metal popper. And what I did was I covered it with a piece of masking tape on the inside of the glove, so that I didn't just get zapped by the metal popper, and the energy was dispersed over the whole glove into the body. That will be the best way of doing it. Okay, you need to take some masking tape or electrical tape and use that to cover the inside of the popper, because you got that, the clasp goes onto the outside of the popper. That's fine. But on the inside of the glove or the band, you need to cover that up. All right, then you put your band on, you put your glove on, you put the sock on, you're fine. But I've had like the metal popper, give me an unhappy time. Just a little bit of masking tape will sort that thing out for you. So if I don't cover the inside of the glove, it won't get dispersed. Now I'm sure you will get dispersal, okay? It's just like, that little metal popper on the inside is just very conductive. It's very, very, very conductive. If you're lying in bed and you're sweating, it's going to be even more conductive. So if you got like the wrong, you got the, say you got a really low frequency going through you, you might feel it, okay? So that's why I cover it. The glove itself, the socks themselves contain wire, Okay, they are conductive. The band is conductive. All right, but there's also sticky TENS pads. Okay, and there's larger ones. And those larger ones can, like, wherever it's touching the body, the power will go in. So that's good. So with the lady who was asking about her abdominal problem, okay, if, like, I don't know if I can show you this, right? But like, there's my hip, there's my rib. You've got a large TENS pad to cover that whole area on the side, okay? And on the other side of the body, you basically do the same thing. So that the idea is that all of your guts, all of your digestive system, can receive as much in that area as possible. And I've reduced all kinds of nasty things inside my digestive system that way. And I'm probably going to have to go back to doing that pretty sure. All right, now we've covered quite a lot. We've covered the use of your scalar. We've gone into sample digitizer. We've gone into all kinds of stuff now. I'm still open here for a few more minutes if you want to ask me more questions. So, you know, rack your brains. We've still got 35 people in the room. You know, ask me something whilst I'm still here, because like if we don't get any more questions, I'm just going to have to wrap up and you know, end the show. Okay. Please clarify if you can send remotely through the sample digitizer, or is that just for obtaining information? If I was you, I would use that to obtain information. Now, there was some talk a while back of potentially using the sample digitizer in the same way as a remote. My understanding is that the sample digitizer doesn't have as much of the technology in it to be able to turn it into an efficient and effective remote. So it's not good enough at this stage of its development for that purpose. So that's why you would need the 2 generators on the Generator X, because the Generator X has got 2 generators in it. One of them you'll be using for the scanning, and the other one for the delivery of the frequency, if you want to do it remotely. And what you can do is, if I can set up screen share again, is I'll quickly show you something. Bear with me a second whilst I just get my act together. Just a moment, please. Close that down. Click share screen. I go back to that, and I click share. Okay. So now you see I've got my spooky up. Let's say I went to Biofeedback, okay, Generator X, and I went to Hunt and Kill, okay, and I click on, Control, override one of my generators. Okay, now I want to bring your attention to the bottom of the screen where it says detect. Ignore the fact it's picking up some random noise. Okay, ignore that for the moment. But beneath where it says detect, right at the bottom, it says run on gen. And it's just there where I've just highlighted in blue. Okay, so if you're taking your scan results from generator 3, I could then type into that, run on generator 4, and when you're doing the hunt and kill, it will then deliver, it will take the information from generator 3, which is your generator 1 on your generator X, and deliver it to the port 4, which is your second generator on your generator X. So your third generator 3 on my screen here, okay, will be the one you'll use to take the information. Your generator 4 will be the one to deliver it if you're doing hunt and kill. So it will hunt basically on number 3, it will kill on number 4. Same for scan and run if you wanted to use sample digitizer and a remote. Okay, or indeed sample digitizer and contact tens pad, which you could use overnight as another hypothetical method. Does that make sense? Okay. So you're scanning on one, you're running it on the other. You're hunting on one, you're killing on the other. Okay. I'll stop this in a second because I have stuff coming through on chat. And I'll stop my screen share. Stop share. Okay. Now we got things coming in. Well, let's go back to Q&A first and see what's happening there. Using Spooky 2 remotes with Generator X, how could I do a biofeedback scan on another person using fingernails as a sample? I understand it is still hypothetically possible to do that, but I think that the fingernails have to be very finely ground up, and I'm not quite sure what you'll be picking up. My feeling would be that if you're using sample digitizer, to the most part, you're digitizing the sample. Now, you're not necessarily going to reliably get everything for that person. I mean, biofeedback on someone remotely, I don't know how reliable that would be. I personally would not do that for myself. I would do the biofeedback on the person when they're there. They're sitting there with TENS pads on them, or they're between the lids of the scalar unit to get the numbers together. And once you've got those numbers, then you know what you can kill. You know, you're killing with numbers. Great fun, brilliant, exciting. Okay, grade scanning isn't clear to me. Select it instead of general biofeedback scan. Okay. Let me try and go into grade scanning for you, because it's not one of those words which seems like it's from a foreign language, isn't it? Grade scan. What's that? What's that? What's a grade scan? Okay, well, I'll tell you. You know there's frequency sets in the programs. Okay, there's frequency sets in the programs. Okay, and let's say, for example, you're interested in running Candida albicans, okay, because you got that particular diagnosis from the doctor. Okay, but you don't know, out of all of the frequencies for Candida albicans, there's a lot there. Type in the word Candida into the programs menu, and it's a lot. There's a lot. But what you want to do is you want to get some frequencies, which you know that history says is associated with Candida. But you don't want ineffective frequencies that's not going to help you. So you want to turn to someone and say, tell me which are the best ones. But what you're going to do is you're going to ask your own body. Okay? And that's what a grade scan is. It's like running a biofeedback scan. You're selecting grade program first instead. And you're filling up your programs box with all of the ones for, in this example, Candida albicans. And then you're going to lie still, click scan, and wait for the results to come in. And when you get your list of results, you can select the top ones, because those are the most relevant to you. So the top 10, the top 20, and you disregard the rest. You deselect the rest. And then bam, it's there. The frequency set for Candida albicans for yourself. So you save that set. And in a name, BFB, Candida, 13th day of the 6th month, year of our Lord 2020. Okay. Then, if you're really clever, really, really, really clever, you'll think to yourself, okay, so I know now that those 10 or 20 frequencies are what my body says is the best for me when it comes to Candida albicans. I know that. But what if, okay, what if my body has got, you know, very slightly different frequency varieties of Candida albicans in it? I mean, I'm sure I know those are the best ones. Those are the best ones. But I want to get it more precise because I want to make sure I'm hitting the Candida albicans. What do I do then? Because then there's another type of scan called an optimized scan. Okay? And the optimized scan will take, you know, you can then, just like you put all those Candida frequencies into the program's window for your grade scan. Do the same thing with an optimized scan. You do it with your biofeedback scan, which you've taken from the Candida frequencies. Are you with me? And then you run the optimized scan. So maybe like one of the frequency numbers is 250 hertz. That is one of the ones which is significant. Okay. But your body says it's actually 249.53. Okay, that's just slightly off. Still relevant, but slightly off. So now you got a more accurate frequency. And that's how the optimized scan. So a good way of using this is to first select all the frequency sets which is relevant to your condition. Run the grade scan. Take the results of your grade scan and run that through an optimized scan. And then treat that as being your frequency set. And you run it through the shell, which is the instruction to take that delivery method, contact, plasma, remotes, whatever, and what you want to do, whether you want to heal or you want to kill, to which for the most part, if it's a pathogen you want to kill. Then you run that frequency set every night for a few nights, for a few weeks, half an hour in the morning, half an hour at night. That would be ideal. Okay? And that's how you use it. Does that, Brenda, does that make sense? Okay, Peter says, I've been using the remote quite a while to heal diabetes and hypertension, but I'm not sure if it's working. I've never had a healing reaction, and I still don't notice any difference. How do I know whether or not the remote is really working? That's a very good question. In my case, because of some of the things I played with, I attempted to attack at random when I first got my unit, I can tell you that the remote does do something. But whether remote is necessarily right for diabetes and hypertension, that depends upon the condition. Okay? An approach, and I'm saying an approach because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a qualified medical practitioner, I'm just a monkey with a keyboard, okay? But an approach would be to research any pathogens associated with your diabetes and your hypertension. And then to find out their frequencies in the programs tab and run those things on a killing shell via your remote, if you wanted to use remote. Now, diabetes is difficult and complicated and may require a bit more work. So maybe you need to ask yourself whether you need to work with diabetes via contact or plasma or scalar. I mean, I don't know, but my feeling is that maybe the scalar would be quite good. hypertension, that's more hypertension. Because when I ran Scalar, it was very good for my breathing, very good for my lungs. So I think it's good for tissue healing. I don't know how it would work with sugar problems like diabetes and that sort of stuff. When I attack scary things in my body, because I've got a combination of conditions that react physically, then I know when remote is working. And I know it does stuff. It definitely does really piss off those damn pathogens. But it depends upon your condition. And maybe you actually need to get in there with something harsher. Contact, plasma, scalar. Okay. Okay. Someone else has asked, will there be a replay posted anywhere on the website? This video of today's session, I'm recording it. Will then turn into a video, and it will then become on the Spooky 2 Life for Life group. And I'll be sending, it'll take some time for the software to process it into a video, and then it's got to be uploaded somewhere, and then I've got to send a link off to somewhere. But yeah, it'll be out there. Given 24 or 48 hours, there will be my face out there with a wonderful snowy scene behind me, and plenty of fuzzy little smoky effects around my head to prove it's a really bad quality green screen. Yeah, absolutely. So, it is the kind of thing you need to go back to, because you got to work this out for yourself, but you've also got to contemplate and listen to it and think about what's been said or what was said in the presentation itself, and string all this stuff together into a cohesive approach for yourself, for what's going on in your life right now. And it's difficult. I mean, it is, it's a challenge. You're dealing with a challenge of your life. Okay. All right. What will be some of the upcoming planned sessions? By this time of day, I have no idea. I'm sure John and Sam will be able to provide some feedback as to what they think is the next right thing to cover, because I think the idea is to just have lots of information out there about relevant things so that people can find relevant stuff and stuff. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, the general flow of questions is subsiding. I want to give you the benefit of the doubt and stay here for another minute or so. So if you want to carry on seeing my ugly face blown up big in your screen and hearing my disgusting voice for a few more minutes, ask me questions. It's 1:30 a.m. in Australia. Oh, sleep tight in Australia, okay? Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite, and so on and so forth. Because for some of you people, it's like early in the morning, you're just finishing up your coffee. Some of you had to get up like ultra early in order to watch this. Some of you, you're just like drinking tons of coffee to stay awake so that you can watch it, for which I'm totally thankful, okay? And also, one thing I'll quickly point out whilst I'm here is my name is Nick Dewey, D-E-W-E-Y, okay? I'm available on the Spooky 2 Life for Life Facebook group. Join it. Okay, talk to me if you want. Okay, now this is a scalar question. I'm confused about the difference between when you put things on the transmitter and when on the receiver on the scalar. Can you answer that? Yeah, you don't put anything on the receiver because the receiver doesn't. The naming of these things is complicated. Okay, what you're talking about here is molecular scalar, aren't you? Okay, so let's say you got your two scalar boxes. They're set up, link cable connected, turned on, powered up, tuned in. Okay, You want to sit between the two boxes and you want to get something from that. Okay, so you've got little vials of, I don't know, frankincense and vitamin C and stuff from somewhere, and you want to get that into your body. That's what you're asking about. And you want to use Scalar as a means of doing that. Okay, molecular Scalar. Okay. You put it on the receiver, the tiny little round circle on the receiver. And from your point of view, you're having a bit of a, a traditional, like, oh my God, why type moment inside your head, because like that doesn't make any sense. Surely it should be the transmitter. Okay. Well, the transmitter transmits something which goes to the receiver. And well, is it that way around? Okay. One of them transmits something to the other one. Then it gets turned into Scalar. Okay. So you have to put the thing you want delivered into your body onto the receiver, because there's a signal going one way and then it gets changed and it comes back to Scalar. So you have to put it onto the receiver. Which makes no sense, I know. But give it a go. Look forward to more. One request, is it possible to improve the audio because it's slightly distorted, like you're speaking through a hollow tube? Possibly. Take a couple of quid being spent, but that's a possibility. Yeah, we could do that. I'll have to like get like one of those big, scary sort of like, I'm a really important person microphones. Just one step at a time. Do feel blessed we've got the green screen, because otherwise you'd see how terrible my flat looks. Life in lockdown, man. Okay. Anything else while you still got me here? How often should you change the samples of the drugs that you may be using on the Scalar pads? I don't know. I would say relatively frequently. I'll probably leave it like a week, maybe, myself personally. I don't know. I haven't read anything about that. I don't think it'll last forever. I mean, how long would, like, because there's when you're using the Scalar device, it doesn't actually change the substance. Okay, when you're putting your fingernails in the remote, then that does something to it, so therefore your signal goes down with the passage of time. But when you're putting something on the Scalar, it's not being changed. So I think you can like leave it there for a long period of time until the drug has gone rancid. But you don't want that to happen, so you change it up frequently. Is using the remote with the generator X more powerful than using the remote with the XM generator? No. No. It's only as relevant as the frequency sets you're putting through it. The XM generator is actually quite good for what it does. So it's well, the importance of generator X is it goes up to 40 megahertz, which is what Raymond Rice's original frequency range. Okay, the XM only goes up to 5 megahertz, so it's a lower frequency device. So it can work with, it can do all the pre-existing frequency sets that's out there in the database, and you can run those via remote if you want. That's fine. That's great. It still works brilliant. Okay, fine, no problem. And you can scan with the XM generator as well, using the pulse unit. Okay, and then you can run the scan via remote. Not a problem. Fine, great, one. Okay, but you get higher frequencies with the generator X, and therefore you can do more precise things. There's also the high frequency scan which you can do with generator X, which is really, really good as well. And I've had some wonderful extreme Alzheimer reactions from that. Oh dear, yeah. So yeah, the generator X is a different tool. See these things as different tools. They do different things. They use them different ways. You can use them creatively. But you've got to build an understanding of it through experience. Okay. Good, good. It's a good product. Okay, I'm actually like, I don't think I could live without my technology. I could. I know that my health problems would start, creep back worse if I didn't have Spooky 2. Experience takes that to fact. So I'm there. 5 XM generators already. Good boy, good boy. Okay. Should we call that a wrap? Should we call that dinner time or bedtime? Bedtime for people in Australia, dinner time for us in England. Okay. All right, that's that. I'll see you all on the Spooky 2 Right for Life Facebook group. And look after yourself. Bye for now.